Hello, everyone, and welcome to another of our series of webinars brought to you by Apri. My name is Charlie Cowens. I'm here with Max Katz, who's head of developer relations. This time we're going to try a slightly different format than we usually do. We're going to try and just have, we usually have Q&A at the end of a demo. This time we're skipping the demo and just having the Q&A. So this is your chance to ask any question related to Apri, Apri.io that you might want to ask. And can I use an Apri, here's a question, let's see. Can I use an Apri hosted collection as a regular database source in a business intelligence application that can access Mongo and other external databases? Or is the only way through setting it up as a REST service or REST app?
Good question. But guys, first, welcome everyone to this webinar, or we call it open office hours, where you guys, as Charlie mentioned, can ask any questions. But to this question, so let's see, can I use the Apri hosted collection as a regular database source in a business intelligence application? Well, the answer is yes. I mean, the Apri.io database is always accessed via a REST API. And of course, in the app builder, we simplify because you can auto-generate services that connect to the database, but you can as easy set up the service manually by hand. Now, for this business application, if it allows you to invoke APIs, then you can access the Apri.io database via the APIs that the database offers. So I hope we got the answer right here.
Yeah, I think so.
But again, if it's not, if you want to post more information, I mean, we'll go back to it.
Okay. Here's another question about trying to create a native iPhone app without actually having a Mac computer for distribution to the App Store. Is that something that is doable?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's one of the sort of main reasons why we have the cloud build, right? Where inside the app builder, you can just click export and then build a binary for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, for iOS, there are a few extra steps. Then obviously this is just outside of our control, is that you do need to generate a certificate. That can be done without having a Mac, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously having a Mac is probably simpler,
right?
For, again, obvious reasons. But again, you can't do it without. Now, as for submitting the app, you do need, I believe, iTunes. But iTunes works on a Windows machine as well. So, but again, the answer is yes. You should be able to build an app without having access to a Mac computer.
Okay, here's a question about when we say PhoneGap, that's the hybrid app, but there's also the possibility of creating web-only apps with Apri.io. So is there some kind of list somewhere that shows what exactly you give up when you do beyond we don't have a resource that just does a comparison of having a web-only app versus a hybrid app using PhoneGap, or do we?
Well, you give up primarily, there are two things. First is the ability to publish the app to the App Store.
Right.
That's number one. And number two is that you lose access to device APIs. And primarily, I'm going to go the other way. So just a pure web browser, you can still access some native APIs, such as geolocation, for example.
Oh, because of HTML5.
Yes, yeah. HTML5. I believe they're an early sort of draft or version of accessing, for example, the battery information on your phone. I know that Firefox browser has that. But again, geolocation you can definitely do through the browser, just the browser. But everything else, like making the phone make sounds, camera, barcode, contacts, you would need PhoneGap.
So it's not a hard and fast, completely either or thing, but it is pretty. HTML5 will never catch up with the capabilities of a full.
They might, but they might catch up. It's taking
and also when you
longer for them.
And also when you use these HTML5 features, it depends on your browser actually supporting them. Whereas when you use a hybrid app, then it's much more. You're more certain of having the particular features supported.
Yeah, I mean, but you can always go to the Apache Cordova docs, page and see what APIs you get out of there. So again, if you don't use Cordova, you're going to lose access to those APIs. Again, except the geolocation. There may be a few other ones that the browser provides out of the box. And of course, the ability to publish the app to the App Store.
Okay. Now here's a question about the, he wants to know if there's a kind of page with some kind of connection to Appri.io JavaScript examples. Examples of using, there are lots of different places where you use JavaScript in Appri.io.
Yeah, do you want to, Charlie, make me
sure.
the presenter so I can show?
Oh, I guess we can make you the presenter. All right, here we go. Okay, so you should be up. There you go. You're on.
And just give me a sec here. So if we go to the Dev Center, you can go to documentation, and then at the bottom here, we have a link to using JavaScript API. So this is using the build. So we provide, Appri.io provides a small library, to access components on the page, for example, to navigate, there is a invoke services and so on. So this is one example. If you navigate to the components page, UI components here, every component will have some other examples. I don't know which particular one. Maybe if we go with the input. So you can see API examples. So you can see various API examples. But, besides the Appri.io JavaScript library, which has just, a number of methods to help you sort of navigate around the app, all these examples, they are basically jQuery, jQuery mobile examples, right? And of course, even this Appri.io that I just mentioned, it's a wrapper on top of jQuery and jQuery mobile. Okay, so you basically have full access to what jQuery and jQuery mobile provide when you're building an app. So whatever API, those libraries make available, you have access to those APIs.
Okay. Here's a question about creating the Android APK files. Do you need to enter the license key when you create the binary in the Appri.io, I guess?
Sorry, for the APKs at the Android?
Yeah, that's the Android. When creating the binary APK file for Android, do you need to enter the license key? If so, where?
For Android, well, you don't need. You can upload a certificate, but there is no. Let me just look. There is no license key necessarily for an Android file. You can do a certificate, and you can automatically generate a certificate.
Oh, okay.
So you can create your own and upload it, or you can automatically generate a default certificate inside the platform.
Oh, okay. Here's someone who wants to know exactly why you need a Mac computer to put the app in the App Store that you create. Is there some what's the technical reason?
No, I don't think you need a Mac computer. I think you said that you need iTunes.
Oh, okay.
And iTunes works on a Windows machine.
Yeah. So the Windows version of iTunes will
it should work, yes.
Oh, okay. And is there a Linux version of iTunes, or is that
no? I don't believe
too
so.
weird? Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Here's a question. I can build the executable, but that's not enough to finish the job as the common. Oh, this person just wants to know what are some common reasons Apple would reject your app. So you can build it with Appri.io, but they decide ultimately what goes into the store. So from your experience with talking to different developers, what are some of the common reasons for rejection that you've seen?
There are many reasons, but one thing I want to say is that Apple will not reject an app and just because it was built with, for example, Cordova.
Right.
Right? They're not going to reject. They're going to reject because the app doesn't work as
that would be a good reason.
As it should. There are bugs. So stuff like that. Maybe the UI, they're pretty strict with UI. That if it doesn't sort of follow some of their guidelines, they might reject it. So those are the primarily primarily the reasons they would reject. I mean, if there's any copyright issues and so on. So it's really primarily has to do with sort of how the app is built, what's inside the app, how it works, and it's really nothing to do with the technology that the app was built with.
Okay. Well, someone's asked a question that was asked before about having to use a Mac. They were saying they had to use $5 to compile it on a Mac, but we're producing hybrid apps when we...
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So
I'm not sure. It's not...
A true pure native app is a little different. That's kind of out of the scope of Apri.io, right? Yeah.
I mean, purely native, but I'm not... It's also be curious to know where exactly you had to pay $5.
Yeah.
Maybe we should charge $5 per bill.
I know. We could put it. Maybe we could afford to go to that Peruvian place down the street. Okay, so here's a question. This is back to being rejected from the store. Does Apple always give you a reason, right?
They should give you a reason. Yes, they should give you a reason. Now it might not be the exact. I don't know how much information they usually provide, but they'll always give you a reason.
Okay, and then there's always a gotcha for everything. That there are always trade-offs. So if you want to go with the pure web route and run it and you're targeting iPhone Safari as the browser to use it, what are some of the kind of things you should be on the lookout for that might cause a problem with getting the most out of that kind of app? I mean,
and this specifically for iPhone, for the Safari.
iPhone,
You know what? I'm not aware of any specific issues with the iPhone Safari. I know that I believe it's iOS 7 or maybe 8, they really updated their JavaScript engine in their browser, so they're pretty much on par with all the with other browsers, mobile browsers, as for supporting various features, speed and performance.
Oh, okay. Here's a request for a tutorial on zooming images with third-party plugins. Does that make sense to you? I mean, we're always looking for ideas, so does he need to articulate what he wants more, or is that clear to you?
No, it's pretty clear. What I would also recommend maybe is we do have a plugin, and I forget, but let me go forget the exact name, but let me go and check it out.
You're using our resources to look up something. Excellent.
Let me go and see. If I go to platform and then plugins, and this is the one. I don't see it here. Okay, let me go inside the app builder and see if I can find it there. So let me open an app. So it's this one right here. It's called Serve. So they actually provide, and so the image is hosted on their server in this case. So it might be a little bit different of an example. But the image is hosted on their server, and they provide a very rich API on how you can manipulate the images. Mm-hmm. Right? You can zoom. You can do a lot of different things. Obviously, that's what they do. So there are a lot of things that you can do. So you can try them and see if that works. But we can also look into adding an example for zooming an image. I mean, again, that would be done just with JavaScript.
Okay, and here's a person asking. I'm not sure if I quite get the question, but I'll just say it literally. Can you give an example of code servers versus JavaScript? Is that?
Yeah, maybe if you can add a little bit more information. If the question is what the difference between maybe server code and JavaScript. So maybe if you want to just say yes, then we can cover that.
All right. Oops. Okay, lost my place in here. Let me see if the person responded down there. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, JavaScript is just a language, right? It's a language that used, you know, in the browser to build mobile web apps and hybrid apps and so on. So, but JavaScript also has become popular on the server. And for example, Node.js, right? So you write the code in JavaScript, but then it runs on the server. So our server code feature is very similar to Node.js. And in fact, we use the Google V8 JavaScript engine, right? So you write the code, and then it basically compiles the code on the server. And that allows you to write any app logic or business logic, if you want to call it. And again, in this case, we're just using JavaScript. So, you know, other people, you know, maybe use, you know, Java on the server or some other language. But this is an example of using JavaScript that runs on the server. And of course, you have pretty much access to the full JavaScript API. Okay, so I mean, you're just free to write anything you want. And of course, Appri.io has other features around it. You can quickly test the stuff or the logic that you wrote. Your script is instantly exposed via an API, which then can be invoked. You can also, from the server code, you can access the database. For example, you can do a push and some other things. Mm-hmm. Okay, but again, JavaScript is just a language, and server code is a feature that Appri.io provides, and it just turns out that we use JavaScript, right, to write the logic.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, here's a question. This is someone who signed up with Appri.io yesterday, and so they're saying there are a lot of tutorials, but is there like a subset that a new user should really zoom in on? Or, I mean, we have getting started guides, right? That would be the traditional kind of place you'd go to.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a getting started section that you guys, and let me just go there. All right, so the getting started is right here. All right, so you can visit this. But also, we have a pretty extensive YouTube, what do you want to call
it?
Collection, yes, collection of videos, and
smorgasbord.
And in particular, you guys should check out. And it's very. I mean, you just go to YouTube. I can put a link into. So let me see if I can do.
Oh, just send
a chat, right? It's going to be a chat. So
yeah, to all.
Okay, and you'll find a list. I think it's called the list, right? Or a list, right?
Yeah.
Where what's called called build in 5 minutes. So these are all videos which are under 5 minutes, and they show you how to use one of the main features in Appri.io. You should also we have a kind of a more formal training list of videos that you can check out.
Yeah, it's broken up by sections so that you can see all the last webinars, and you're gonna go, oh, just show it. That's even easier.
So this one actually takes you to the training course, but if you go just home, all right, you can see. So there is the training course, right? There is build in 5 minutes, and then the webinars. Yes.
And there's also a lot of videos that are like, a lot of times you do webinars that are based around demoing something, but there are also a lot of videos where it's just demoing it, just the demo part. And they're clear. Everything is clearly organized into different sections, so you can easily browse through our collection of videos.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's see. Here's a question. Is there an example where you do a complete deployment from Appri to the Appri.io to the App Store, but on a Mac, showing it showing up in the store? We usually do that for Android, because it's so much easier to get something into the Android, you can actually do it we did it in 40 minutes or 30 minutes but the problem is that just to begin to answer this, is that the Apple Store doesn't, they take their time about approving apps, right?
Yeah, it's going to take anywhere from maybe a week plus or minus. But again, I mean, in general, it doesn't really matter. I mean, one of the benefits is, of course, Apri.io platform. You can develop from anywhere using really any computer. And again, Apple, you do need to generate the certificate, although again, that can be done on a Windows machine, so you don't necessarily need to have an access to a Mac.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just as long as it has iTunes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, here's a question. Is there a way to make the tutorial apps not count against your account's app limit? So the idea is, can you open a tutorial? I mean, can you just do one to work through the tutorial, but not have it count as a? I mean, is this I mean, we don't do that, but is that an idea that's been thought of before? Is trying to maybe like
it's good question, but no. I mean, today we just basically create an account, and of course, based on your account, you can create a different number of apps.
But you understand the thing he's proposing, and that it might be something worth considering is coming up with some system for that. Okay. All right. So your question is understood.
Well, look, I mean, we're looking at something, maybe creating a trial where you have, basically you can create
fuller.
Yeah. And then, for whatever number of days.
That would be a good use for that. Yeah. Okay. Max, you wrote a book about Java faces or something like that, right? You've written about rich faces. Yeah, that was an old one. So this person's asking you, are there any plans to write a book about Apri.io, like using Apri.io for mobile app development or something like that? Oh, come on, being an author is so much more.
Everything is just, two things. I mean, first, it just takes so much time.
Yeah, things change all the time.
Yeah, and then things change. So, I don't know if we want to print the book. Maybe there are a lot of publishers that do those short, electronic books. Basically they print, they do it on demand type.
Right, yeah.
Because the stuff changes so much.
Yeah, I have something like that for our programming class I'm taking. They just do an ebook through
ebook.
Club, and they update it all the time. Okay.
And then if you make changes, then those changes get pushed to the users, right? Who downloaded the book.
It's very effective. Okay, so that would be the closest. Would be something like that ebook thing. And the other branch of this was the idea of a single source of information on Apri.io, but that's our goal with the Dev Center, basically. So that's how we can fulfill that. Is if we need feedback from people about how we try and respond to what we've heard before, but we're always looking for better ways to organize the Dev Center, so it gives people what they need to know as fast as possible. Do apps with user login functionalities allow for levels? So how finely grained is our, I guess, authentication? I guess that's one way of putting it for the login functionality.
Yeah, I'm not. Permissions. So again, I'll just read the question again. So do apps with user login functionality allow for levels or permissions? So we do have this permissions for the database, right? So what objects you can access and so on. So yeah, you can definitely set up permissions for different users. I mean, if that's the question.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely.
Okay. Now, can you explain a little about the backup feature? Here are some specific aspects of that question. Can the person easily restore? How do they restore a previous backup? And can I import a saved back on my computer to Apri.io? Oh, okay. So the backups are stored in the cloud by default, right?
Well, there are two things here. So you can do a backup where you actually export a zip file of your app and you download it to your computer, right? And then you can import it back as just by creating a new app. There is an option to create an app from a backup.
Okay.
The different feature is called versioning, where you create different versions of the app.
Okay.
And this is kind of a built-in source control type, but it's not on the file level. It's more right now on just an app level.
Thing, yeah.
App level. So you're working on your app. Let's say you work for for today, and then at the end of today you want to make a version, so you save it as a version.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you continue tomorrow, and you got it working. You save another version.
Okay. So here's a question. Is it possible to map API array to a server code parameter? Please, could you give me an example? Okay.
Is it possible to map an array to server code parameter? Is the question is whether you can pass an array as a parameter to server code
script?
I think
that's what he means.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I don't have an example right now, but you should be able to do that. I mean, you might have to convert the array into a string, for example, but there are ways to do that.
Okay, and then here's a question about the procedure for using your own domain to run an app. There are two different branches. That one would be, I think this is about the web hosting, the web only app thing, because it wouldn't make sense for a hybrid.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. If you go to, and I can show you, if you go, let me close. And so right here, you would specify a custom domain. And there's some more information here what you need to do, right? You need to specify the DNS and so on. So that's, there's some information you need to specify on the, on your side, basically, with the company that you host or the domain is registered. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but there are just really just two steps here.
Okay. So you're okay. So then, let's see. What's another one? Oh, here's a question about one of our tutorial about building a music shop app using model and storage. But you did not end the solution, meaning the send the Carl to the app. You must have. I'm not sure what the question is. Can you make it out? They're saying that we have this tutorial. We didn't explain how to put something into the Apery database. Are you familiar with that particular tutorial?
I'm familiar with the tutorial. I'm just not 100% sure. But
could you
yeah.
Restate your question? The person who asked about that, because we're not quite getting it. Oh, here's a person who's following up on their question about login functionalities. They're saying that do you have permissions as in user groups for the control? I guess your control of the authentication is handled through the Apery database, right? So I guess he's asking if you can specify user, the way that you can specify user groups to have access to certain things.
You could create user groups. I mean, it's something you would need to, sort of kind of create yourself. Although, I mean, you could expand the, so right now the way the permissions works is that it's based on on each row. So for each row you save, or each object you save in a database, you can specify permissions. And by default, usually, the user who created the record, he or she owns that record. But you can actually specify multiple user IDs who have access to this record. So I guess if you have maybe, 2 or more, right, that could be a group of people that have access to the record.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, you could create groups on that that way.
Okay. Now here's someone who noticed the word webhooks on the screen that you're sharing. So they want to know. Can you explain a little about what webhooks are and how they work, particularly with Apery.io?
Yeah, webhooks is a kind of a standard way to notify other systems of something happening in Apery.io. And if you just search for webhooks, you'll get a lot of different links and explanations how it works. But the basic idea is that, again, you would like to notify another system, right, that something occurred, an event occurred in Apery.io. And when you create a webhook, you specify the event. So for example, one event can be that developer launches a build for Android. And then you would like to notify a system that this event occurred. And how that's done, that's via, again, REST API. So, In the webhook, you specify, you give a URL
Mm-hmm.
to which a request will be made when that event occurs.
Okay.
Okay, so again, you're working with an app, you launch a build, the webhook listens to the event, and it fires a request to that API that you specified.
Right.
Right? The API is, again, to an external system of your choice.
Okay.
And once that system receives the request, it will do something.
Okay.
Right? What it does, that's up to you.
Okay.
I mean, if it's configured, you know.
So it's one of those things where you basically got to start using it to really get the hang of it. When you actually use it in a, do we have any tutorials that you know
we
of
do.
that talk a lot about it? Okay. So the key is to search webhooks in the dev center. Just
Yeah, and again, it's not, I mean, the whole idea of a webhook is not specific to Operate.io. I mean, many sites out there use this notion of webhook. But again, it's the idea is to notify an external system of an event that occurred in Operate.io.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, if you do a binary build, you would again write to a log, right? That a build, successful build happened, at this point, for example.
Okay. This is someone clarifying that question. How to send the goods from the, remember we were talking about that tutorial about the building model and storage? They're saying how to send the goods from the cart on the app, I guess the shopping cart, to a new collection on in the Apri database, so we close the circle. Is that any clearer? Or maybe this is something we should just handle offline?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
All right. So the person who asked that should just contact you. Let me send a note to them. Here's a question. Does the splash screen function work with the Apri tester?
Yes, it should work with Apri.
Okay. And then what about integrations with GitHub from the Apri platform? Are there any, is there anything built in, or is it just do you have any tips or tricks about how
Yeah, we don't, right now we don't have an out-of-the-box integration with GitHub. It's something we're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have an integration yet. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons we have the built-in versioning. And I understand it's not the same as integration with GitHub.
Right, but it's trying to serve that kind of need.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, of course, you can always just export the source, right, and put it in GitHub. It's a manual process, but...
Okay. Okay, now here's a good question. What is just briefly, what's the general process for adding an external library? Just to kind of show someone quickly, or at least point to the parts of the platform where they do that?
Yeah, there are different couple of options. Well, two really. Let me open the app. And you can create a JavaScript file, so just create new, and then it can be a blank file, create from a URL, or upload from a file, right? That's and basically the JavaScript file will be copied, will be in your app.
Okay.
Another option is to go to project and then app settings, and then external resources. Right here you can link, right? So this will be a link to a file.
Okay.
So those are the two ways you can add a library.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward, but it's nice to see it displayed on this from someone else doing it who knows what they're doing. And here's a kind of a broad, this could be a whole webinar in itself, but just briefly, what are they're both valuable frameworks, jQuery Mobile and AngularJS. But so what are, just really briefly, what are some of the advantages? How would you approach deciding between the two?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of difficult to compare the two frameworks. I mean, first of all, jQuery Mobile is a UI, provides the UI components.
Mm-hmm.
AngularJS is more the logic, the JavaScript logic. So I think it's probably it's better to say, well, whether it's jQuery Mobile or Ionic, for example.
Or
Bootstrap, yeah. So that's probably kind of a better comparison. Again, as for, Bootstrap is kind of a little bit on its own in the sense that it allows you really to create responsive apps for any screen size.
That's
right?
its target.
Exactly. I mean, jQuery Mobile really doesn't have a lot of responsive stuff out of the box.
Okay.
I mean, except just taking up the entire screen size, which is really not responsive.
Right.
But comparing jQuery Mobile versus Ionic, I think, I mean, jQuery Mobile is an obviously older framework, and when it was being created, it wasn't specifically for hybrid apps. I think people just took jQuery Mobile and started building hybrid apps with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it works, but again, it tries to target the mobile web, some hybrid, and it also tries to cover as many browsers and older devices as they can.
Oh,
I think Ionic is kind of specifically for building hybrid apps, right? It doesn't try to do mobile web.
Okay.
It's optimized for hybrid apps using the modern browsers.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell.
All right.
So again, if you're targeting just iOS and Android, probably definitely consider Ionic.
Okay. All right. So that's the elevator pitch version, except it's a very long, it's a longer elevator, right?
Yeah. So,
okay. All right. That's the best we could do. Now, do you have any, before we go, do you have any last words for people? I mean, we set this up to be 30 minutes, and we're already at 11:40, so I was wondering if you wanted to leave any tips or tricks or thoughts with people before we go?
I mean, not really. I mean, I think this worked really well, and we'll have another session like this.
Yeah, there'll be other. I mean, yeah. I think this has worked out pretty well. I mean, it's nice to have something where people can just ask. I mean, obviously it has to be about Appri.io and not some current event topic or something, but just to give people the chance to just bring their own questions. So we'll be doing this. We'll do this again.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely check out the Dev Center and the YouTube channel. The only thing I like to mention, and I get this question a lot, I mean, it's like question, well, can I do this with Appri.io, or can I integrate with this API with Appri.io, or can I build an interactive app with Appri.io? And the answer is pretty much always yes. I like to always say that keep in mind that your app doesn't run in Appri.io, right? You build the app in Appri.io. Your app simply runs in the browser if it's a mobile web app, or same thing, it's a browser if it's a hybrid app, right? It's right inside a web view. So you're only really limited by what HTML, the browser, JavaScript can do, right? So you can integrate with any API, you can add any libraries you want, and so on. Okay. So you can pretty much, again, anything you can build, again, as a hybrid app or a mobile web app, you can build an Appri.io. Just a tool that we hope simplifies mobile development.
All right. Okay. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming to this webinar and coming with your questions.